Hello, hello, hello. So, I wanted to do a quick off the cuff forecast. It's not really a forecast, it's more talking points about an event that we have coming up on March 1st, 2025, that I think is really significant in a lot of ways. And I also love when the astrology and the numerology sort of come together and kiss and hold hands because they complement each other so well. And this event that we have on March 1st is exactly that. It's a really significant point in history, I think, that I want to talk about. So that's what this numerology quick takes will be about. We're going to dissect a little bit the Venus retrograde that's going to be happening again on March 1st, 2025. And it's happening in the sign of Aries. And so I'm going to go into, I'm going to go into the numerology of all of this. I would highly recommend finding an astrologer that you love and watching anything that they have about this Venus retrograde, because I do think it's going to be significant in a whole heck of a lot of ways. Maybe not initially, but as we progress in the coming years, I think that this is a catalyst. I think this is a starting point, a significant starting point. And so I wanted to take some time and talk about it. Now, one thing that I'll mention about the astrology is, of course, we have Venus, which is, of course, love, can also indicate have to do with finances, that sort of thing, how we love, how we show up to love, how we receive love, etc. But it's also a feminine energy, right? We usually equate Venus with the feminine and Mars with the masculine. Venus being more receptive, softer, that more gentle feminine energy. Mars being that assertive, action, god of war. So the fact that we've got Venus, which again, we're equating with the feminine for the purposes of this podcast, entering in retrograde, right? And retrograde just means that it looks like the planet is moving backwards. It's not. It's just the way that we see it from Earth. But usually a retrograde signifies a time for reflection, a time for review, a time for, slowing down and taking a closer look at something. So we have Venus, this feminine energy, entering into the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, which is again, god of war, action, leadership, assertiveness, impulsivity, right? It's a go forward type of energy in a big way. So metaphorically speaking, we could see this as the feminine energy rising up, the feminine energy stepping into warrior mode. Okay. Now we're going to get pretty woo in this podcast, but I mean, that's what we do here. So stay with me. It's all going to come together. It's all going to make sense. So let's break this all down a little bit. So we've all heard about, I'm assuming we've all heard about, many of us have heard about the rise of the divine feminine energy, right? This has kind of been circulating through the woo channels and through the spiritual communities and healing communities for years. So we've known that this is coming, this rise of the feminine energy, the divine feminine energy. And I think, first let me back up. I want to make it very clear that feminine energy, we all have feminine and masculine energy from within, right? It has nothing to do with man or woman. It's an energy. Feminine is that softer, more receptive, more gentle, energy that signifies the vibration of love. Masculine energy is that the drive, the motivation, the ambition, the go, get up and go. It's basically like when we talk about the distinction between Mars and Venus, it's those energies. And so, but it has nothing to do with male or female. You can be a male and have very strong feminine energies, or you can be a female and have very strong masculine energies. And the goal is to hopefully balance those energies from within in this lifetime, right? Because any extreme is detrimental. Any extreme causes chaos and conflict and destruction. But when things are in balance and harmony, then we can get somewhere. And so we've definitely been heavy in the masculine energy. I would say heavy in the wounded masculine energy for centuries, right? And so, and sometimes we'll call it the patriarchy or, male dominated world or whatever, but it's really this sort of wounded masculine energy that's at the forefront. And we've been in this energy for decades and centuries. And so the pendulum always swings. Always. Sometimes it takes centuries. Sometimes it takes, millions of years, right? But the pendulum always swings. That's the nature of things. And we're at a point now where that pendulum is starting to swing. We are in a time in history when that pendulum it's coming back in the opposite direction. Now, I just got done saying that feminine energy doesn't signify woman, right? It's a vibration that we all have. However, with that being said, we are absolutely in a time in history when all women, will start to rise up and lead. Women will be the leaders in the revolution. And I'm talking about globally. Women will be the leaders in the revolution. Venus, retrograde in Aries, is the starting point. And we've already kind of seen this start to happen, right? But this Venus retrograding in Aries is, I think, the true starting point for when we are really going to start to see this take shape around the world. Like it or not, ready or not, that pendulum is swinging and there's no stopping it. Now, it'll take many years to come to fruition and to start to truly see the effects of this movement. But this Venus retrograde in the sign of Aries, heck yeah, it is the call humanity has been waiting for, and it's up to women to heed the call, to support each other, to rally around one another, to uplift, to amplify each other's voices, and to refrain from cutting each other down. It will be the role of the men to step in to more of like a supportive role, because remember, this is the rise of the feminine energy. So that feminine energy, as it rises, it's not only going to affect women, it's going to affect men as well. I mean, anybody can fight this energy as much as they want to, but the pendulum always swings, and men will feel this. So the role of men will be to start to step into a more supportive role and to move out of the way for women to take the lead. Now, if this is triggering for you or this is bringing things up for you, that's on you to work through, okay? And you might want to address that because this train is in motion. This is happening. And it's up to you what you do with it. Now, the oppression of women, again, all women, is at a breaking point. And we are here now in this lifetime to witness this rise of the sacred feminine in action. Venus retrograding in Aries. Now, this is also an opportunity for men to embrace their femininity from within and let that energy shine through, and to work through the shame, the embarrassment, whatever comes up for you, because society has instilled in men that there's something wrong with you if you lean more into your feminine energy, or if you embrace your feminine energy. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually incredibly natural. And the fact that we have sort of shamed that out of men, we're reaping the consequences of that. And we have been for, again, centuries. None of this happens easily or without catalysts. So it's going to be a pretty chaotic shit show for a while as this starts to gain momentum. And I want to be clear, this isn't about swinging the pendulum to the other extreme, because what we don't want, what we do not want, is to be in a society, in a world where it's the extreme feminine, or the victim mentality, or again, like the wounded feminine. We don't want to be in a world where we're there. What we will hopefully do is swing the pendulum back far enough to where we hit equilibrium. We hit that balance of the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy, and we create a world of peace, harmony, balance, camaraderie, working together, unity, all the things. But that doesn't come easily. Like, it has to hit a boiling point, it has to hit a catalyst, it has to be really uncomfortable for probably a while. And we're probably gonna fight that change, and we're gonna see that change being fought, and you know, that strong masculine energy, that wounded masculine energy, the patriarchy, let's call it, will fight to keep their place on the pyramid, right? At the top of the pyramid. And this is not an attack on men or any of those things. We're just talking about the energies. So again, if this is triggering for anyone out there, I'm not going to apologize. That's something you need to work through. So will it be easy? Absolutely not. There will be the opposition. There will be the fight against it. There will try to continue to, be that oppression. But this is a tipping point. This is a tipping point where it's sort of that energy of, we're not going back. We are not going back to that extreme oppression of women or that feminine energy. So we're looking at a whole lot of uncomfortableness and likely, again, a whole lot of opposition. But it's happening, and it's happening right now. This is the start of it all. Mark my words. Now, how do I know this? I know this because this event, Venus retrograde in Aries, begins on March 1st, 2025. And the energy that governs this day is the 13-4. So I want to break down this energy, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Stay with me, and you can determine how this energy might impact you directly moving forward. And this podcast, I'm going to touch on like how this energy could affect you, but really, I'm really looking at more of a global stage here and how it's going to affect all of us collectively. Because this is a movement. This is the beginning of a movement. I can almost guarantee it. So let's break down this 13-4 energy. First, let's talk about the number 13, because the number 13 gets such a bad rap. I mean, of course it does, because again, it's tied to the feminine energy. And the feminine energy through the last, centuries has been oppressed. has been shamed and considered evil. Again, superstition around the 13. Friday the 13th is a superstitious number, right? But actually, the 13 is a really high vibration. It's an incredibly beautiful vibration, and it's actually considered sacred in a lot of ways through a lot of different contextual work. So let's talk about the 13. When we move through a 13 cycle, this is a time for spiritual growth and awakening, inner exploration and development, a time to reflect on how we're contributing into the world. What does that look like? Getting rid of negativity within your life, making room for opportunities, and collaborating with your higher self, your higher consciousness, the universe, to achieve not only your desires, but something better, a greater solution for the world, for a greater population. And it's also a number that is thought to sort of clean and purify, right? The number 13, as I mentioned, is associated with the planet Venus, particularly signifying the feminine power, the feminine creativity, and cycles of transformation connected to Venus, especially on days like Friday the 13th, which is considered to be ruled by Venus. So this association can sort of be seen as a positive force for embracing one's creative potential. And I do also think, aside from just what we've been talking about with the rise of the divine feminine, I do think that this is also a starting point for us collectively to start really embracing our creative attributes, like what we came here for, like our creative talents, our innate talents, our gifts, and really starting to shift the focus onto that. Not about striving just to make ends meet or to be rich and famous, doing something we absolutely hate and that drains us. Humans are creative beings, and we came here to create. That's a part of our destiny. And as we suppress that, of course, right? We're talking about suppressing that feminine energy, and creativity is feminine energy. As we suppress that, we suffer the consequences of that. We humans suffer the consequences of that. We are meant to be creative and sharing our gifts and doing what we love and doing what we enjoy. And again, Venus retrograde in the sign of Aries, helping this feminine energy to rise, also brings the rise of that creativity, encouraging us to embrace the creative life force that pulses through us, that we're meant to take advantage of in this lifetime. If we're not creating, we are not living. And I'm talking about doing what, brings us joy, entertaining our imagination, creating, not for a outcome, not for a result, but for the process of creation. And so this retrograde is, again, the catalyst for starting to bring that side of the feminine energy also into view. Now, the other thing I will say about this is the other reason why this is signified, or why the number 13 is equated to Venus, is because there's this famous dance of Venus and the Earth around the sun. So once in every 8 years, Venus and Earth create sort of a 5-pointed star formation known as the Rose of Venus. And there's a lot of astrologers that actually talk about the Rose of Venus and, when that cycle is and when that the new cycle starts. So again, highly recommend finding an astrologer that you like and listening to those podcasts or reading up on it. Now, if we add up these numbers, we get the number 13. So 8 plus 5. Remember, once in 8 years, Venus and the Earth create a 5-point star formation. If we add up those numbers, we get the number 13. 8 plus 5 equals 13. In addition, if you convert the 8, which is the Earth years, to Venusian years, amount of years on Venus, it's equal to 13 Venusian years. So, and this is because Venus's orbit is smaller than that of the Earth. So a lot of 13 energy there, and that's why we equate the number 13 to Venus. Now, if we just want to go, and we can go down a rabbit hole of the number 13, and I highly recommend, if this is something that interests you, what we're talking about today, just do your own digging into the true meaning of the number 13. And I'm not even talking about numerology here. I'm talking about what the significance of the 13 to different cultures, the significance of the 13 in the Bible, the significance of the 13. There's just so much. You could just go down such a rabbit hole here. I'm just going to give you some little tidbits of information around the 13 when it comes to some of these things, and then we're going to get into the numerology of it. But fascinating stuff. So now if we look at the church, or the time when the church and men were afraid of the true power of women, okay, so afraid that they started witch hunts on women who were using their sacred feminine energies back in the day, because let's face it, they didn't burn witches at the stakes. They burned women at the stakes. They hunted and burned women. Part of the oppression, right? And so back in the day, that 13 started to be equated with witches. And again, this is where we started to get like Friday the 13th and the superstition around it, and et cetera, et cetera. In sacred geometry, the fruit of life consists of 13 circles, which is the predecessor of Metatron's cube, or like male and female energies combined. If you look at Metatron's cube, there's a triangle and 2 triangles. And anyway, you can look it up. But it's the male and female energies combined. Again, that convergence of feminine and masculine energy and the balancing of that energy. And since Metatron's cube plays a very important role in the creation of our universe, you could basically see the fruit of life as the womb of the universe. Right? So again, coming back to that feminine energy and the 13. Now on Earth, we have 13 moons in a year. Coincidentally, women have 13 menstrual cycles in a year. The number 13 symbolizes sacred feminine energies, which was feared by the church back in the days, or maybe it still is. Of course it still is. It very much still is. And that's why we've seen this significant oppression of not only women, but the feminine energy. Because remember, women and men, all beings, have feminine and masculine energy within them. And when we suppress one of those energies because we don't like it, or we're afraid of it, or whatever it may be, guess what? We see extreme situations. And that's what we're in at the moment. The number 13 really is such the epitome of creation, because it's tied to women, is tied to that feminine energy. And women are the ultimate creators, right? We literally birth beings through us. So, and that can be scary. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. Of course, we need to be restricted. Of course, we need to be oppressed. That's a lot of power. And so throughout the centuries and in eons, men, right, feared that power in women and began to oppress it. And we are now at that boiling point where that energy is rising. And again, it's going to rise in everyone. It's what we choose to do with it that's going to make the difference. But I don't think there's any stopping it at this point. The pendulum is swinging. And one thing I want to point out too is, we're talking about how the 13 is truly this creational and transformational energy. And I just got done saying that it signifies the feminine energy, which we all have. Men, women, I mean, literally everybody, regardless of how you identify, you've got this energy in you. And so it can be used to empower yourself. So it's not about like one again, I don't want to get too confusing because I'm talking about like energies and then I'm also talking about gender, but I'm just using male and female just to keep it very simple and straightforward. And so I'm not disregarding like non-binary and et cetera, right? I'm just trying to keep it very streamlined. Because in this podcast, we are going to be talking about the rise not only of feminine energy, but the rise of women. And there's definitely been oppression of both energies. But what I also want to make very clear is it doesn't matter how you identify, you have this feminine energy within you, and you can use it to empower yourself. So it's not about like one party becoming more powerful than the other, which is what we have seen for, again, centuries. It's not about that. It's about, again, letting the feminine energies rise and merging with those masculine energies to become balanced. We want balance. So I just wanted to point that out, right? Everything I'm talking about today definitely relates to you, no matter if you are male, female, or however you identify. So keep that in mind. This energy of the feminine can be used to empower yourself. And that's ultimately the goal. And that's ultimately the goal of the 13. Okay, so now then, let's break down the 13 in terms of, I was going to say numerology, but first I want to go to tarot, to be honest. So let's talk about the tarot symbolism for the 13 energy. And so if you look at the tarot card or a traditional depiction of the tarot card for the 13, it's the death card, okay? So if you look at the traditional depiction, you have the skeleton on a horse carrying a death flag and with the sun rising in the background, but there's a lot of destruction around the feet of the horse, right? Or the hooves of the horse. And so the key words corresponding to this card are fish, fish's mouth, or the mouth of the uterus. And the symbol suggests reproduction and birth, but not necessarily into like birth into this world. It's rather the birth of the consciousness into higher planes. So the 13, as we've discussed, is a very sacred number, especially every multiple of 13. So it signifies or initiates one who is reborn through the mental powers of transmutation. So just to kind of give some examples, right? So there are 12 disciples. Jesus was the 13th. There are 12 zodiac signs. The sun is at the center. Or I would say you are at the center, right? Well, I'm at the center. We're at the center. The number 13 is preserved in the measurements of the Great Pyramid. I mean, there's so many things. That's what I'm saying. Like you could do your own search, and there's so many significant correlations with this number. It's so powerful. And of course it's been suppressed. Of course, like it's been demonized. The number 13, of course it's been demonized. It's been demonized just like the feminine energy has been demonized, and just as women have been oppressed and demonized, whether we want to admit it or not. The skeleton in the picture that in the tarot card is the figure of death, which comes to all, doesn't matter who you are, king, man, woman, child, without respect for your station in life. Doesn't matter how rich you are, poor you are, good you are, bad it doesn't matter. We're all dying. We all go through that transformation. And the shining sun in the background between the two towers in the distance promises that eternal life, promises a better experience, a better future. The life force doesn't die, like the soul doesn't die, but it just changes form. So the number 13 is very much about transformation on like the deepest level of transformation possible. Now then, it's easy to understand why the 13 has always been feared as the death number. It does represent death, but not in like the ordinary sense that we normally think about. Death is merely change. That's all it is. It's just a transition. And, you know, when we're born into life, we die from another level of existence. When we marry, we leave the single life behind and we move into, you know, a situation where we're now partnered. So it's a transformation. The 13 is a reminder that change is simultaneous birth and death, right? Something ends, something new comes in. Something is always going to come in to fill that void. Something is always, you know, something has to fall away because everything in life is transient, and something else is going to come in. Now, when we talk about sort of the vibration of the 13, there's that lower vibration where we're stuck in fear. We begin to oppose what we don't understand. We fight against it. We oppress it. We try to kill it off, whatever it may be, because we fear it, right? Which again is something that we can see that's happened with the feminine energy and women. And that's the lower vibration because we either fear the power, we fear the change, we fear not having control, we fear. And that fear shows up in our actions in the lower vibration of the 13. On the higher vibration of the 13, it actually involves complete satisfaction and attainment through regeneration or using the tremendous powers of this number to create and leave something of value with the world. And that I would go back to say, remember when I said the feminine energy is about creation? It's about creativity and using our innate gifts to leave something better in the world. But because that creativity is often shamed or suppressed, we're not living up to that potential. And you can see it all the time. Like someone, you know, society wants you to become a doctor, but you want to be an artist. And you know, it's this constant. There are, you know, there's different value that we put on creativity from actual what we see as success. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's this oppression of our innate, beautiful, magical creativity. And that is a part of what is rising here. And when we're in the higher vibration of the 13, we actually strive to embrace and embark on that creative journey. And that's when we can truly leave something of value in the world. And if you see creatives, people, you know, in the music industry or, any creative, what I'm doing now is creative, artists, you name it. Anyone who is doing what they love and truly, truly embracing that side of themselves, there's joy in that. There is spirit in that. There is something bigger than self in that. And that is truly what every being on earth, every human on earth came here to do, is to express that creativity. But for generations upon generations, it has been suppressed. And it has been shamed and it has been ridiculed. And this energy of the 13-4 that, again, is really being initiated on March 1st, 2025, with this Venus retrograde into Aries, we are likely going to see that resurgence of the creative being. That's the goal anyway. How long that will take to come to fruition, I have no idea. But this is the path that we're on. And when we're on that path, we have the potential to do something really great with our lives But right now there's so many obstacles in the way because it's about making ends meet, striving to be successful, meet the expectations of society and the capitalistic dream. I don't know, however you want to put it, but it's been that side of ourselves as a collective, especially in the Western world, right, has just been beat out of us. And this energy, you can't keep it down forever. And so as the feminine energy continues to rise, we're going to see this resurgence of creativity, of people really leaning more towards doing what they want to do and what really lights them up, because that's when we can contribute something of true value in this world, true value in this world, and leave something behind for others to do the same. And there's no halfway measures with the 13. There's an enormous potential for ultimate attainment. And there's that equally great potential for complete destruction. It's kind of all or nothing with this energy. And so in other words, what that kind of means is, I kind of always say this about Pluto energy. It's like, it's non-negotiable. Like, it's happening. We can either move through it and be really uncomfortable through the process, or we can move through it and figure out the best way to move through it so that we can get the most out of it. And that's sort of like the 13 energy. It's very scorpionic energy, very much, governed by Pluto type of energy. So it's all or nothing. I mean, it's going to happen. It's just, what are we going to make it look like? What are we going to do with it? And you can fight it all you want. Regardless of what your gender is, this energy, this feminine energy is rising, and you can do with it what you choose to do with it. But I can tell you, if you fight it, it's going to be really uncomfortable. And it could lead to a lot of destruction in the process of fighting it. And I think we're going to see that because I know that it's going to be fought. I know it's going to be fought. This world is terrified of women, strong women in power. It's terrified of it. It's terrified of the feminine energy. That's why it's villainized. That's why so many feminine things are seen as evil. I mean, look at the state of the United States right now. DEI and wokeness is being villainized. And those are both such feminine energy things. It's just, you can see it. You can see it happening. But even from that destruction, that does not stop the process. This energy will rise. And it's up to us whether we move towards that, the potential of what this energy holds, which is a lot of goodness, a lot of good stuff, or we continue to fight it. And it's interesting because this energy, it's like we can either focus on the destruction, or we can focus on the goodness that this energy has the potential to bring in, right? And so you could almost think of it as like, if you think about, and not to get religious, but just as a metaphor here, if you think about the story of Christ and the crucifixion, most people focus on the crucifixion. I mean, you can see it. And and again, I'm not getting down on beliefs. This is not a religious, I'm not talking about religion, really. I'm talking more about the metaphor. But if you think about it, people focus on the crucifixion. We wear the cross, the focus is on the crucifixion. And that's where most of the stories go towards. Rarely is there much focus given to the resurrection. And there's some focus given there, but it's not, it's mostly on the sort of more victim side of things, the crucifixion, the destruction. Not on the resurrection. And the 13 promises the destruction. Like it's going to have to destroy whatever is not working to build what is working. And our goal is to not get focused on the destruction or that dramatic change, right? Because the 13-4 promises dramatic change. And as soon as the situation seems sort of settled and quiet, a new set of circumstances can come up to sort of replace the old. It's this constant transformation and evolution. The 13-4, Scorpionic energy, Pluto, it's all about transformation and evolution towards something greater, towards something more enlightened, something of a higher vibration. It's that constant renewal that keeps us progressing, that keeps us aware of the direction that we're moving in. And it reminds us of the transitory nature of everything, especially earthly things. And it pushes us, like that instability of the material world sort of pushes us to strengthen that bond between ourselves and our higher consciousness, a greater power that we are a part of, right? The higher octave of this experience. So really like the spiritual side of ourselves. Now, this is a time when we are meant to secure our relationships, right? Again, bring balance and harmony and support and all the things I was talking about. We need to focus on bringing that into our relationships and into our communities and get a greater sense of community. And I will say that, traditionally, if you look at like Black communities or even Latino communities, Native American communities, most Indigenous populations have a very strong sense of community, very strong sense of community. And that is power. That is powerful. And traditionally, whites do not have that sense of community. There's a lot of individualization. There's a lot of separation. And this 13-4 is sort of pushing to bring that greater sense of community into all populations of the world, right? And especially with women. So again, not just women. I mean, again, remember, I'm kind of keeping this as sort of simplified as possible. But because it can also hopefully push every human to come in together for community and support and unity and all the things, because that's what that feminine energy is about. And so we could definitely see that push to move more towards a sense of community. Again, for coming together, uplifting one another, amplifying each other's voices, all of the things. It's such a powerful, beautiful energy. It just makes you wonder why we would ever fight it. But because it's so powerful, that's why we fight it. Even though it's such a big part of who we are, even when we try to suppress it. It's interesting though, because with the 13 energy, it's like when we can build that stability within our relationships through connectivity, through unity, then it doesn't matter sort of what happens in the physical. Like it doesn't matter what happens to the material, because we will have that strength and those bonds. And so really this energy kind of pushes us to realize that it's those bonds, it's that unity, it's that connectivity that's true, that's lasting, that is the goal, right? Because we can rebuild things. We can change things up, we can move things around. But if we don't have that sense of community, if we don't have that sense of unity, then we really don't have a whole lot. And what's also really beautiful about the 13 is there's an idealism to this energy that really doesn't know any bounds. It's a big, big idealistic type of energy. And so it gives us the power to transform even the most desperate lost cause. And we can transform it into something really worthwhile, really something that we can be proud of and that has true value in life. And again, there's that focus on the creative energy to discover what is possible. With the 13 energy, it's sort of like, seeing fertile ground in something that someone else sees as wasteland and building something really beautiful there. taking a dying business and with your creative ideas and talents and hard work, changing it into something financially profitable. It's that kind of energy. It's that kind of transformation. It's salvaging a relationship that seems about to break and cementing it even more strongly than it was and creating something really powerful and strong. Transformation is at the heart of this energy. And it's what we do with that transformative power that truly makes the difference. And we can use that transformation in our businesses, in our relationships, in social causes, in bringing justice to situations, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that is the feminine energy. Now, also the 13-4 brings truth to the surface. It's sort of like a lie detector, similar to the 7 energy, but it's going to allow us to see through people in situations that are not truthful, that are illusions, that are not real. And it opens us up, it opens our senses up to be able to recognize when someone's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And then it gives us the strength and the power to take appropriate action. And through this process, the 13 gives us the ability to hopefully bring about peaceful changes that will improve the living standards of the world. Because remember, this is a collective energy. This is across the world that we're going to start to see this. And it gives us that opportunity to not move away from peace and harmony and unity and balance and seeing eye to eye and all those things, but actually find a greater solution for moving towards that. Like, instead of just going straight to war, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's, again, very feminine energy. And again, if you look at history, it's that wounded masculine energy that is about war and boundaries and destruction and power and manipulation. And again, this is wounded masculine energy. Masculine energy is beautiful as well, especially when it's healthy. But we've been in this wounded masculine energy for a really long time. And that's where we see the wars and the aggression and all that. And the feminine energy brings in the conversation. It brings in the diplomacy. And it brings in the desire for more peaceful process. And gives us the opportunity to build towards that. And that's the goal. That's what this energy has the power to do in so many ways. Let's see, what else do I want to say about this? It's interesting too, because of this transformative energy and the extreme transformation really that the 13-4 usually brings in, we can kind of expect changes that will bring some kind of ending to conditions that no longer serve a useful purpose in our evolutionary journey. And again, remember, we have to see the bubbling to the surface. We have to see the catalyst. We have to see the things come to culmination. We have to move through the ickiness of it all to get to the other side. It's sort of like the Phoenix Rising type of energy, right? But the 13 brings the changes necessary. And sometimes those changes are not fun to move through. But it brings those changes that can end the conditions that no longer serve a useful purpose in our collective evolutionary movement forward. And it sort of demolishes or aims to demolish rigid thought patterns, anything that is not serving us, anything that has been working against the unity, the harmony, the peace, and the balance. Because it's only through that death of present circumstances that we can be freed, that we can be open to progress, to doing something different, to creating something much, much better. And it's interesting because if you think about 13-4 energy, what comes after 4? 5. 5 energy yes, it's about change, but it's mostly about, well, not mostly, but it's very much also about progressiveness, unconventionality, doing things ahead of its time, evolution. And so it's kind of like you can think about this 13-4 energy as like the excavator, like building the foundation, building a solid foundation so that we can, create something different and think outside the box and do things more evolved. So very, 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 very powerful energy. And again, want to be clear, not going to see this on March 1st. This is the starting point. This is truly, I feel, the starting point for a lot of happening. And if you think about it too, 5 energy is kind of like Aquarian energy in a lot of ways. And we have Pluto just entered Aquarius on November 19th, 2024. Pluto is very much 13-4 energy. So, and Aquarius is very much for the people. And for the people means all people. So, there's a lot at play here. And, Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for like 18 years, I think, something like that. So again, this is not a quick process. I wish it were, but it's not. So, but I bet you any money that we can look back on this timeline and see where the catalyst was, like see where the initiation started. This is absolutely a period where old ideas have to be dismantled. They have to be swept away to make room for the new, the better, the untried, the things we haven't tried yet, for the unmeasured genius, the things that can't be measured because they haven't been done yet. So, this is such a powerful time in history. And you can look around the world right now and there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. And there always is, but it's kind of like, this is such a weird timeline. But it also makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so it'll be interesting. I would definitely say be prepared during this period to, entertain fresh new ideas, new people, different conditions, different ways of doing things. Be open to releasing what's not working. Be open to releasing the rigid thoughts and the need for control, because you're going to need to release the need for control during this period. Get used to plans changing. Get used to needing to move to new locations potentially, to interact with different people, to, be open to new opportunities that might be very different than what you're used to during this period. And again, this retrograde for Venus is only a month long, I think. It's not very long, but it is I think, a very powerful catalyst. And it's starting a storyline that is going to continue to unfold, I think, over the next 18 years while Pluto is in Aquarius. And, through this process, we will eventually get to the reconstruction period. We will eventually get to that period that brings that, eternal happiness and, great opportunities and all of the things and unity and etc. if we make the right decisions at this time. And the right decisions would be to move towards allowing that feminine energy to rise without continuing to try to suppress it, without continuing trying to oppose it, no matter what the opposition tells us to do. Right? So much about the 13-4 is thinking for yourself, critical thinking, moving towards a solution that works for more than just self. And yeah, ultimately, change is the basis of everything. Everything in the universe changes. It's always moving and changing form and expanding and growing. And that's what we're meant to be doing. And we cannot do that without one of the most important aspects of ourselves, which is the feminine energy. We all have there's enough masculine energy in the world right now. Again, I could do a whole podcast on like the wounded masculine and the healthy masculine energy, right? There's a whole thing about that, and you can do your own research on it. And the key is to allow this feminine energy to rise to meet the masculine energy, marry the two, but where both are healthy. Because what we don't want, and I said this at the beginning, is we don't want to get to the extreme of the wounded feminine, because then we're just in a whole other kind of shit show. We want balance. We want healthy. We want that merging, that marrying of the two. It's interesting, though, because this energy reminds us that releasing ourselves from the past is followed by that renewal, which then brings the changes, that promotes the growth. And so this is absolutely the time where we're going to be pushed to release what's not working, not cling to it, not fight to it, not fight for it, but to release it and to allow change to happen and allow that growth to happen. And it's interesting because if we think about the 13 energy and everything I've been talking about, this is the cyclical force of nature, right? And 4 energy is basically earth energy. And so, this is also about the earth and the regeneration of the earth. And, humans are the consciousness of the planet. So, there's so much here. There's so much. I could spend 6 hours talking about this. I won't do that to you. But this is definitely a period of cyclical nature, where the old is being replaced by the new. And it doesn't mean we're getting rid of, we're not getting rid of men. We're not getting rid of the patriarchy. We're not getting rid of masculine energy. We are letting the feminine rise, letting women rise to meet the masculine, to meet the men, for that equality, for that level playing field. And truly, this is kind of like a handing off of the power, though. This is like women. Women will be the leaders in this movement. I can almost guarantee it. You will see it. You will see it. And if you watch the news or any kind of social media, you can see it already. There are women that are stepping into the limelight for the cause. And the cause is to no longer be oppressed, to become the leaders of the world that we were meant to be, alongside of men. It's not about getting rid of men and all those things, right? So very, 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 very powerful energy. Very powerful energy. It's fascinating. When I saw that this event, this Venus retrograde was aligned with the 13-4 energy, I almost passed out. It's just nuts. Because we can look at everything that's happening in the world and we can just be like, I just don't get it. I'm just so confused, all the things. But man, if you look at the astrology and the numerology, it's right on time. It is right on time. So again, you get to decide how you work with this energy, how you use it. And again, let me emphasize, literally everyone benefits from the rise of the feminine energy. Everyone. Again, doesn't matter how you identify. Everyone benefits from this. We just don't need to fight it. If anything, we need to find ways to support it and to lean into it. It's going to be uncomfortable because we're not used to working with this energy. We're used to suppressing it and seeing it as evil. It's not evil. It's such a big part of who we are. So let's embrace it. Anyway, so again, not really a forecast for the individual, although, this is going to affect every individual, as we continue to move forward. And again, it's how we individually choose to work with it that's going to make the difference in our individual lives. But on a global scale, I don't know, I could be wrong. This could be a waste of an hour of your life. But I don't know. I have yet to see the numerology or the astrology be wrong. Sometimes the interpretation can be off. And maybe my interpretation is off, but I don't know. All signs point to we are at a pivotal point in history. So let's do something powerful with it. And let's come together. All right. I hope that you found this helpful or at least informative. And I also encourage you to do your own research and listen to different numerologists and different astrologers about, what this could be bringing in, because I don't know. It feels pretty significant. Also, kind of love that this is Venus retrograde, right? So it's like review, revision, you know, and in kind of looking back to like review of when the feminine energy wasn't suppressed. I don't know when that was or what that looked like, but anyway, that's what this energy is bringing back to life. So I'm here for it. All right, everyone, take care. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's rise up. Take care. Bye for now.